What's up, world? It's your boy Tommy Mav, and I came to speak on something that is really annoying. And first off, I'm gonna say I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. I really don't give a fuck. That's not my personality. I really don't care about likes or dislikes. I really don't care if people subscribe or whatever, because I realize that half of this shit is just bull. But I can't. The people that make me that bring out the most anger in me are these anti-SJW people, right? So, if you don't know what a SJW is, it stands for Social Justice Warriors. There are people who go out and they fight for social justice. Now, preferencing my comments on the anti-SJWs, I like to give my thoughts on SJWs. I hate SJWs. I think they're annoying as hell. I think there are a bunch of college kids within groups of people that really are going through things who are spoiled brats. They're spoiled brats, and then they ingratiate themselves into these movements, and then they just start using them to be brats and get anything they want. Right? For example, homosexuals are a lot of times targets of hate and animosity from people who do not like it. Around the world, there are homosexuals who are killed for being homosexual. There's a lot of people who are homosexuals who go through a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I can understand the need for people who fight so that these people are treated fairly. Totally get it. The problem is you have a bunch of homosexuals within this protected group class of people who abuse it, meaning they basically use it to outlaw religion, outlaw conservative thought, outlaw anybody disagreeing with their lifestyle and what they do. And they'll say, "Well, I teach," and they'll say, "I teach hate." I mean, I teach love. I teach love everybody. And you will say to them 10,000 times, I do love everybody. I don't hate anybody. I'm just telling you that I think your lifestyle, to me, and from my religious point of view, I do not agree with that lifestyle. And you can't make me change my religious views because to make you more comfortable in your lifestyle. That's not how it works. It works. In certain religious places, it is not right to eat pork. Am I to walk up to? I eat pork, so do I walk up to these people and say, "Don't teach hate"? No, that's their religion. They choose to think that eating meat is wrong, eating pork is wrong. I don't have a right to tell them they can't think that. Same way with you and your homosexuality. Just because you became a group that in the construct of society that was created that allowed you to have a bigger voice than pork eaters, it does not mean that you get or you become more butthurt over every comment than a pork eater does, that I have to somehow cater to you more than I would cater to a pork eater. It's like, no, there are certain things in certain religions that are just wrong. Marrying outside your religion in some religions is wrong. Marrying, having multiple wives in certain religions are wrong. In certain other religions, it's completely fine. I can't walk into a religion where they are polygamous and say, you guys are, you guys have no mindset. You guys are immoral. You're saying that. I'm sorry. I can't be a mono what is it called? I don't know what the word is for just marrying one person, but I can't be a person who marries one person and look at a polygamist and be like, "Oh, you're immoral." I mean, I can do the same scenario over again. But my point is saying that if the polygamist can't get angry with me saying that his life, what he's doing is right, why does the homosexual do? See, but it starts out as an argument of differing of ideas, and at first it is live and let live. That's the first thing they push. You live, I'll live. Let's live and let live, right? So they'll push live and let live, and then when you come up and you say slowly live and let live becomes your idea is becoming more popular than mine. And since your idea is becoming more popular than mine, I'm going to, I think that there are more people who think like you do, so therefore it's discriminating against me because your idea is more popular than mine is. And because your idea is more popular than mine is, I think that we should stymie your idea so that my idea is heard as well. Right? So then that starts. And then all of a sudden it becomes a thing where you can't even say your idea. And they keep perpetuating theirs. So then theirs starts to gain a little movement, not because it's a better idea or because it's a smart idea. It's because this idea is not allowed to be shared. So therefore, people are teaching these kids that it's perfectly normal to have sex. Ignore all the consequences and negative things that are attached to that lifestyle, and we're just gonna act like we didn't see it. Right? I think that's ignorant. I think you never. When people go into a decision with when all the nuances of it are explained, then that's a discussion we can have. We can have that discussion because all the nuances are out there. But when you stymie nuances and then you're teaching 3-year-olds to put on girl clothes or 3-year-olds to put on boy clothes, and I can't say anything about it, that is not fair to me. That is not fair to my religion. That is not fair to my morals and my ideology because you have somehow pigeonholed your way into a protected class, and now you but like I tell people all the time, because they love the class that everybody uses as a shield is the African American class. So anytime you start pressing people on, look, dude, you're going overboard, they always harken back to African Americans. But what they fail to understand is that African Americans and women are not the same. African Americans and homosexuals are not the same. African Americans and Latinos are not the same. Asians, they're not the same. African Americans have a history in this country of being treated like they're less than. And after they were supposed to be given equal rights, they were still treated like they were less than. Up until 90s, 2000, they really started. Now I think it's starting to be more of a turn because African Americans are starting to get wealth and success, so it's starting to turn to where it's starting being African American is starting to be less and less negative. But it took a long time. So, and there's still a lot of people who are prejudiced against African Americans. So you have a group that you use to pull on the pain strings of people who oppose you, right? So if you're a woman and you want people to come see your movie, or you want someone to go buy your products or whatever you want to do, and you start to get resistance, they'll throw out, well, it's because I'm a woman. And then they're met with opposition because people are like, no, it has nothing to do with you being a woman. I just don't like your stuff. And they'll be like, see, it's the same type of plight that African Americans had to go through. It's like, no, it's not. They were fighting to be treated like human beings. You're mad because people aren't going to see your movie. Don't demean what they went through to make some arduous bullshit point that has nothing to do with the actual argument that people are putting forth. You just didn't make a good movie. You know what I'm saying? You're not being discriminated against. You know what I'm saying? There are plenty. You chose to go into a genre that is predominantly populated by a certain demographic. If you go into the movie business, in action genre, movie genre, they want to make money like men, except 90% of the they don't want to make movies that cater to men. They want to make movies that cater to women, but yet they want to make the same type of money that the movies that cater to men do in a demographic that is dominated by men. So your movie is not tanking because you're a woman. Your movie is tanking because you went into a predominantly male genre of action and adventure and sci-fi, and you tried to pigeonhole it to feminist and female ideologies, thinking that these people weren't going to be turned off by it and or were going to be attracted to it. You can't preach a movie based on women values when you're trying to sell it to men, because it's not going to appeal to me. I'm gonna applaud it and I'll say, well, that's a good look for you, but that's not appealing to me. You know what I'm saying? Good. I hope a lot of women go see it, but why would I go see it? I don't get it. It's like when I make African American movies. African Americans don't make these movies because they think white males are going to go see them. They make these movies because they think black males are going to see them. That's the difference. The difference between when African American filmmakers make movies and when females make movies is because is African Americans assume that African Americans are going to be the only people who want to see it. Females think for some reason they make that if they make movies, you know why they believe that? It's because 90% of them are white females. And they grow up around white males. And they grow up around white males thinking, especially beautiful or good-looking white females. They grow up around basically because this is a thing that is different in the white community than it is in the black community. In the white community, the females run it. I'm not talking about they're in higher positions, even though they're starting to be. But I'm talking about in the households. White females run it. Like you go, like you. The difference is it's kind of like when you see a white, and I'm not saying this is consistent across all social economic status. I'm talking about the more powerful people in suburban and suburbia and stuff like that. Females run the roost. They run the house. You know what I'm saying? The children, it's the same type of difference between when you see minority children and suburban children. Minority and lower class white children generally don't run their household. Their parents do. Their parents tell them what they do. Their parents tell them what they need to do. And if they don't do it, their parents rectify it. They let them know who the parent is. In suburbia, there's this belief that spanking is bad. There's this belief that controlling your child and telling your child what to do is somehow abusing them, not giving them free range to explore and find themselves. So it ends up creating a bunch of spoiled, entitled children who believe the world should be made to fit and cater to them, not that they need to change how they act to fit in with the world. In a world that we have to share. They think instead of the world being made for us to share it, it should be made to make them happy. And when you do that, you end up running into problems. And I'm only saying this not because I'm trying to bag on SJWs. I'm trying to give them a perspective that these guys take and run with. Right now, this is my perspective, and I'm truly saying this to the people to these women who are getting annoyed that their movies aren't selling well and their shows are not selling well. You cannot cater to a base that's predominantly male and expect to get to cash in when you're not doing anything that males want to come see. I'm being honest, and I'm gonna be blatantly honest. Men like vulgarness, they like fighting, they like aggressive behavior from both their males and their females. And they don't like their females to be slutty. They like them to be sexy. And that's the difference between what women think and what men think. Men don't want their woman to be slutty and be the hero woman. They don't want that. They want their woman to be sexy, teasy, flirty. They don't want her to be slutty. Because if the antagonist, the protagonist gets her, there's no real catch if she's a slut. So. But regardless, that's just a side bit that I just threw in. Man. The whole overall point I'm trying to make is you have to make movies that are catering to males, and males are a lot more like things that are a lot more vulgar and abrasive and in your face and action. They are R-rated. Men are R-rated by nature. We want to see more. Females they shy away from R-rated stuff. To males, the best part of Joker was him bashing the guy's head into the wall. That was either funny and or entertaining to watch. Not that we have this insatiable need to see people get their head bashed in. It just shows a level of realism that that makes it entertaining. It's a level of realism and seeing something you've never seen before. It within a really well told story that really pounds on the point. females would look at that same scene and say it's too vulgar, and that why are they putting this on in a movie? This is too vulgar. This is a prime example. My wife, when me and my wife both saw the same spot, I was laughing at it, at how crazy it was, and she was turned off by it. Like, I don't want to watch it anymore, because that is the type of situation that you run into. So you cannot, in any genre, most genres, you cannot cater to both men and women using the same methods, right? You have to be center. You cannot be way left or way right, because if you go way left, no men are going to see it. If you go way right, no women are going to want to see it. So you have to stay center, and when you start to stay, the problem with a lot of these female movies is they go left, and they stay left, and they stay left the entire movie, and they do it from an arrogant standpoint, where they just basically say that they're not going to change it because men need to hear this, men need to see this, men need to, and then they preach diversity. And this is the real kicker. What I tell you, I go back to the fact that most of these women are rich white women. They preach about diversity. Yet if you go through all the movies that are put out, the lead is a blonde and or dyed girl who is naturally blonde, but she dyes her hair a different color in the movie, with blue eyes or blonde hair. They all have blue eyes or blonde hair, right? Or both, and or both or one or the other, right? Almost all the leads are like that, right? They all have the same look. They all are white women, and you sit up and you say, okay, this wasn't a thing about diversity. This was you guys trying to usurp the white male, and you're using other people to get this done. And I understand, like I said, do what you gotta do, but don't come with me the bull as talking about y'all trying to preach diversity and all we seeing is a bunch of white women. You didn't preach any diversity. It's the same shit. It's the same thing. Only difference is, instead of we getting a white male, we getting a white female in every movie. So you look at it, it's like, okay, I get what's going on here. They don't care about diversity. They don't want to put more white women in movies. And all of these movies, the only difference is when you put a white male in that movie, it actually sells. When you put a white female in the movie, the numbers generally go down. So there's actually, you can actually look at the logic behind why they do what they do. You just are doing it purely for the purpose of pushing an agenda. And you're failing. So it seems like the merit is not there, which gives people ammo. But I went on a super long tangent on that one. But my point is, I'm trying to point out that these people are these anti-SJW people are rabid. But I'm not trying to give anybody the impression that I'm for the SJWs. I think there's a lane that a lot of them overstep. But the anti-SJWs are even worse than the SJWs, because they're nothing but SJWs. Only difference is they're fighting for the white male. So, but the difference between them and the SJWs is they have an abundance of people who agree with them, because there are way more angry white males than there are. There are a lot of angry white females too. So it's kind of like give or take. So that's why the SJWs have such a big following, and why the anti-SJWs have such a problem, because you have, two warring sides, a white female versus white male, and they're both fighting for supremacy in genres that nobody else is really paying attention to. So as I said, so anti-SJW people are nothing but SJWs. They're just acting like they're anti-SJW, but they're really doing the same thing SJWs do. We need more of this. We need more of that. So the only difference in them is that they're fighting to keep their place, while SJWs are fighting to take over that place. Right? That's all they're doing. They're just holding the fort. So what really annoys me about these people is they never have an original opinion. Nothing they say sounds original. If you go to their reviews, go to every single review of every movie that comes out that has a female lead to it, African American in it, or too many minorities in it, they have the same review. Forced diversity, look at this. I like this one black guy. So I'm not racist. So that means that that I'm just saying this because I really don't like this, even though I've only there's been 100 black movies and I can only name one where I actually like the black male. And in that movie, he acted more like a white male than a black male. So really, was he a black male? Then you go or they'll say, "Oh, I don't have a problem with her being Asian. I have a problem with her being a bad actor." It's funny that you only seem to have problems with the minorities and women in every single movie. You don't have a problem. They rarely ever. Only time they have a problem with a male in the movie is if he has an SJW mindset, right? If he preaches. If he says anything that is even remotely close to preachy, meaning if he says to somebody, "Hey, you shouldn't do that," SJW mindset, I don't want to watch this movie. Yet, if you get on there and you got a show like Cobra Kai that basically preaches ignorance, hatred, and all types of other shit, I love this. But I thought you didn't like them preaching to you in shows. But all he's doing is saying he hates SJW. He hates politically correct. Love Dave Chappelle. I love Cobra Kai. But people don't have a problem with them giving their opinions. So you just really don't have a problem with people giving their opinions. You just have a problem with people giving their opinions that you don't like. And because there's so many of you, because let's be real, women are not going to review review Star Wars. They're not going to review most action sci-fi genres. They're just not. So you have an abundance of white males who you are telling that they're oh yeah, you're the oppressed person. White privilege. What's white privilege? Anybody who is dumb enough to believe that being white is not something that has privileges to it, you're a fucking idiot. There's no need to argue with you. There's no need to talk to you. Right? You live in a country that is 90% white. Therefore, when you go into I tell people who do not understand white privilege very simply. I mean, I tell them this every time, and they generally will get what I mean. Imagine you lived in a society where 90% of the people were urban African Americans. You had to come in there and interview based on things based on certain quirks and things that African Americans found to be valuable, and you didn't. They grew up in those areas, so they're going to naturally have more of those things naturally. They're going to have more of those mannerisms naturally because they grew up in that type of environment. You won't. So you'll come in, and it's kind of like when you try to see these white guys who try to go into battle rap. It's kind of hard for them because they can't pick up the same mannerisms that these guys who do it naturally have. Because it's just a natural. When you grow up in something, you don't have to act. You don't have to fill in a role. But when you have it, when you brought up that way, it just naturally comes out. So it comes out more natural. It looks more charismatic. It's the same thing. When I go into a job interview, I cannot speak in my normal voice. I have to speak in a voice that I have heard on television and or seen in some other aspect of my life. I cannot come in there and just speak my natural dialect, because if I do, they will think I'm ignorant. They will think I'm stupid. Not because I am, but because they're ignorant and stupid and prejudiced. When I go to do certain things that they see as disrespectful, that I don't, looking a man in the eye is very important to white Americans to see. I mean, to white Americans, because in their mind it shows some type of confidence. Where I come from, if you look somebody in their eyes, you can get killed for that, because they think you have a problem with them. The first thing is like, what the hell are you looking at me like that for? Because these are people who are paranoid. They walk around with thinking people want to kill them 90% of the day. And if you walk around looking people in the eye, you're going to end up getting killed. So if I grow up in a society that I have learned to not look people in the eye because it will mean that they think I have a problem with them, I'm going to naturally have to curb that when I'm going in for an interview. Shaking hands. If you squeeze an African American's hand when you're in the street, and if I go to shake your hand and you squeeze my hand, I'm probably gonna deck you in the face. But that is a learned thing that you learn in a white America that you have to do. That is a privilege that is given to you because you were brought up in a white household. That is a privilege that I will never know, that I can't understand, but I have to adapt to. That you don't. It's naturally going to be there. Your dialect, your way of speaking is going to be naturally that, because that is the way everybody around you grew up. Nobody would think you're stupid. Nobody would think you're ignorant if you you naturally have a glitch and you go back to your normal way of speaking. But if I do it, they're going to think I'm dumb. That is the difference between me and you. And that is why I get so angry when I hear them say, when they white privilege. Dude, white privilege. If you put out a movie that caters to white Americans, you're going to get 90% of the population. I mean, you're going to get a large faction of the population who will go and see it if it resonates with white Americans. If I make a movie that resonates with Asians or Hispanics or blacks, I'm going to get a microscopic number in comparison to the larger in relation to the larger population. Women the same. You're going to get a small population. That is a privilege. So if I make a movie that white males like, it's probably going to be a hit. If I make a movie that white females like, it's probably going to be a marginal thing if white males don't like it also. If I make a movie for African Americans, it may hit with the African American community, and it may be a mini or somewhat of a hit in relation to the budget. But it's not going to be a hit overall. It's not going to be something that they're going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at next time I try to film it. No, they're going to try to keep the budget the same and hope that the money they make off of it is larger, because because African Americans like it and white males don't like it also, then it's not going to be a huge hit. So do you understand when these people keep saying male privilege and you poo-poo it and you say it in a condescending way? Oh, white privilege. You're a fucking idiot. It's no other way around it. You're an idiot. If you walk around and you truly believe there's no such thing as white privilege, you are an idiot. There is no way around it. You are a completely complicit. You are completely complicit in your ignorance. That's what I'll say. It is not ignorance that is just where did that come from? You're complicit in the ignorance. That means you there's too much evidence. There are too many things around you. And I understand, because a lot of people will say, well, what has me being white has done for me? Probably shit. It probably has done nothing to you in relation to other white people. There are millions of white people. So having white privilege is not that big of a deal unless you do what you guys do, which is consolidate that whiteness. Then that privilege becomes a problem. So a lot of them have gotten this understanding that if they're mad about something, the way to fix it is to get as many people as they can to agree with them and then attack one place. That's the way that they operate in America. See, African Americans can't do that, because unless they get enough white males or white females to go along with it, it's gonna die. Same thing with Asians and Hispanics. White males can do that because there's so many of them. So they start to believe, because so many of them believe the same dumb shit, that it somehow is the truth. Everybody else is making up their problems. Everybody else is making up the issues they have to go through. Nobody's going through that. I don't go through that. So obviously they're lying. There are no cops shooting black people. There's no women being raped. Nobody's preaching that. Nobody's preaching bad. Everybody, I grew up in a household where we were taught racism was bad, and that you should value women. Well, that was your household. That doesn't mean every household was taught that, and your experience does not trump years and years of data that shows that that's not true. But like I said, they're complicit in their ignorance, because being ignorant helps them. Because the biggest problem to them is not racism. It's talk about racism. That's what hurts them the most, because they're white males. You know, if you're dealing with African Americans or people of that ilk, nobody cares about your problem, because, you know, your biggest problem is not anybody else's problem. Being seen as violent and or people that need to be kept in check, or stupid or dumb. It doesn't affect Asians. It doesn't affect Hispanics. Well, it kind of affects Hispanics, but not because they're seen as African Americans, but because they're seen the same way. Just not as bad as African Americans. And it doesn't affect white males. You know, white males are very violent. I mean, you go look up statistics. They're some of the most violent people on the planet. But nobody ever looks at. Everybody looks at, because we live in a predominantly white dominated country. They make sure that they give caveats. They give understanding for why this white male did what he did. Why this white male, so that you can understand that not all white males are the same. But when an African American or Hispanic does the same thing, they don't do those caveats. They just show the story and then just go on with their lives. But because they're white, they understand the need to explain when this kid just shot up the school. It's not because he was just some crazy white dude. It was because of this. It was because of that. When a black guy robs a store, nobody says, well, this specific guy, his mom died when he was 2, and he's been in and out of foster homes since he was 6. He never really learned right from wrong. But that has nothing to do with this suburban kid who's a black kid who grew up in a good family where he was taught to behave. He would never do something like that. But it doesn't matter, because they don't need to do that, because they're not black or Hispanic. Oh yeah, these immigrants are coming in, and look at this immigrant. He killed somebody. Yeah, but there's like 1,000 other immigrants who didn't do anything at all. Yeah, but you know, but the fact that they could do it makes them dangerous. But you live in a country where white males overwhelmingly commit the most violent crimes. Yet you don't preach that we should be afraid of all white males. I mean, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't preach that. One idiot white male doing something dumb does not mean every white male in America is dangerous. Just like one idiot African American doing something does not. And they love to say, well, you turn on the news, you always see African Americans. So, you know, African Americans are more likely to commit a crime, and are more likely to commit a crime against another African American. I'm like, you do realize out of over the years, you know, just basically going by the numbers though, I like 14 million like African Americans. I think last time I checked it was like, which could be old numbers, but it's like 14 million. It's like 300,000 of them in jail. So the overwhelming number of most African Americans do not commit crimes. But if somebody is to be convicted of a crime, it's more than likely going to be a poor person, whether they be white, black, or whatever. If you commit a crime, you're more likely to do it if you're poor, because resources are low and you're competing with others for that resource. So you have, and if you have no added skill to help give you a leg up on those people you're competing with, you start to use more nefarious ways to even your odds. You may sell drugs, you may rob somebody, you may commit violent actions because you're trying to protect what you have, because you have something, but you still have to live around people who don't have something. So you have to learn, you have to carry guns, you have to carry things to protect what you have. Those are all things that lead to crime. But nobody ever mentions that. They just they go do the most lazy analysis you can and just take some arbitrary likeness like skin color, which is okay. So if we're talking about black, how many brown skinned people commit crimes in comparison to light skinned blacks or darker skinned blacks? What if darker skinned blacks commit less crime than brown blacks? Or high yellow blacks, or red blacks, because blacks are coming in a lot of different shades. So which one is the most problematic? Because it's the dumbest metric to describe to characterize people in the history of whatever. You see Asians who look like biracial blacks. You see biracial Hispanics who will look black, but they're Hispanic. So at what point do you start to say, okay, race really is a construct of society? There's no such thing as a black person. There's no such thing as a Hispanic person. These are all categories that people have created so that they can say these people are worse than other people. So they categorize anybody. They try to keep the same suburban picture of perfection, right? So if you're poor white, they play you low. You notice every time they try to speak on any issue where they're talking when they're talking about a dumb white person, you notice they always have a southern twang to them. You notice they always have a certain look to them because they try to differentiate. Hey, everybody who's mad at white America, don't look at rich white guy who's stealing all your money and raising all your prices and all this stuff so that you can't buy gas. But when you used to go to the store and buy a candy bar for 50 cents, now it costs $1.99 because him and his family. But we don't. This guy's good. You want to focus on this poor guy who lives in a trailer park, who sleeps with his cousin and beats his wife and teaches his children to hate everybody and everything. So they want to aim all the anger at the poor, disenfranchised white person because they're throwaways, and they want to keep that same little pure look of their same little white suburbia. Oh, you should be afraid of the geek who's online who plays video games too much. He's the guy that comes to school and shoots up the place. You should be afraid of this guy. They always try to differentiate from that same rich suburbia look. He's perfect. If he's a little overweight and watches too much video games or spends too much time online, he's scary. If he's this, he's scary. But the suburban guy who plays sports and does this and does that, goes to school and is rich and this, he's fine. That's who you should. If you're white, that's who you should ascribe to be. That should be your goal. I think it's a joke, and so these people, these SJWs, and these people who are in this mindset that you should be going around celebrating every time a woman's movie fails, I think is retarded. Why are you celebrating a fact that somebody who is disenfranchised, who does not have the same power as you do, wasn't able to do what your movie was able to do? It's like, I'm celebrating because Little Women failed. I'm celebrating because Charlie Angel's reboot failed. Why? It's not like you get an abundance of these movies. So you're mad that a franchise that finally got a chance to have a movie with something they like failed, so you don't have to see it anymore. Like, I seen somebody talking about the CW, and they're talking about I hated the crossover event. I hated that whole situation. But they're celebrating that Supergirl and Catwoman are two failing shows that are declining in ratings. And in my opinion, I thought that was ridiculous. I actually heard one of these idiots say, hopefully these two will fail and they can put money into a Superman show with Jordan Raw or whatever the guy's name. I'm like, so we're gonna get this? We're gonna get one more white Superman to go along with a white Superman we already got. Yeah, that'll. The fact that you could say that and not understand the ignorance behind the statement shows that you have absolutely no room to be giving your review on stuff. you're as bad as Kathleen Kennedy. Because we all know for every one Catwoman, there's 5 white shows with a white male lead that fail every year. For every one Catwoman or one Supergirl. But y'all ignore them. How well did Lucifer do? Right? How well did every time the year rolls around, we get 5 or 6, or what was it? That one CW, that one show, sci-fi show, Krypton, failed. I mean, every year they're putting out these new, what was it, that on CW, it was Area 51, that failed. Every time they keep doing this, where they'll put out 5 or 6 white male shows that fail. They don't do any reports on these, and then they'll put out one female show or one minority show with that. And luckily, most African American shows do well, so you don't really see it that much with the African American show. But with other shows that have less people representing them. You know, so you know, you may have an Asian, but the Asian population in America isn't really high, and you don't have CW overseas. It's an American channel. So you're not gonna get a lot of. If you try to make a show based around Asians, you're gonna have a problem because there's not a lot of Asians. The Asian population isn't that large, and then you have to deal with trying to cater to get white males to like the Asian show, and you're gonna have a problem. African Americans, luckily, we have a big enough population that they can do it with African Americans. They can't really do it and they're starting to do that more with Hispanics. But Hispanics, you know, a lot of them watch more Spanish channels. You know, not saying that the youngers do, but the older ones, they kind of watch Telemundo and stuff like that because there's a language barrier. So their population, there's a lot of Hispanics, but it's kind of cut down because a lot of them are watch shows from their native countries. But what I'm trying to say is, why do you focus on when these shows fail, and you ignore when shows like Krypton and Area 51 and all these white male shows are failing? I don't hear you talking about we need to stop making these shows. Because you don't want to, because you're a white male. So you're gonna, same type of situation where they talk about when they mention white privilege, it's because stuff like that. You don't have people who with a large platform who will tout and celebrate your every failure while you're trying to get to a point where studios are trusting you to bring in the same type of money, and you're not met with the same feedback that will deter people from watching your product because you make it centered around white males. You're powerful enough to be represented, so you don't have to deal with what they have to deal with. So what gives you the right to go out and deter people from watching their shows when they made it a war? Right? They made it a war so that every time these guys come out with a movie that is led by a female, these white males are protesting it, so people are not watching it. They're protesting people who are trying to create a niche, trying to create an audience that may be coming to see it. I'm going to be real. Some of my favorite movies growing up were led by white females. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite genre, action, sci-fi, I don't even want to call it a trilogy, but series was Underworld. I love Underworld. I love Kate Beckinsale as Selena in Underworld. I love that was my jam. I loved Underworld. I loved Resident Evil before it got all crazy, but I love Resident Evil. You know what I'm saying? I love movies like that. I never saw no agenda in it. I just saw them playing. Man, and yes, they do. They need to stop bogging down these female-led stories with all these agendas where they're basically making everything a statement instead of just writing a story. It's like it's becoming this thing where they feel like if you're a female lead, you can't be ever saved by a male. You can't be in love with a male. You can't want a family. You have to be a stereotypical headstrong woman who has no time for future, no time for family. So half of the women are not resonating with it because they are attracted to males. They do want a male to protect them at times, and and they don't see a problem with that. But because they're trying to push these agendas and these things that are attached to it, it's not catering to women or men. It's catering to one headstrong woman who's in a powerful enough space to make the movie. And she's someone like a Kathleen Kennedy is killing a franchise because she is incapable of dissociating and putting herself in the mindset of a normal woman, because she is a woman of extreme power. So her plight and the things that she's trying to get pushed across and portrayed in her movies are not the same thing as the women going to watch it want to see, and it's definitely not the things that the males going to watch it want to see. You know what I'm saying? These are, yes, I understand. They're annoying fan bases. And because these fan bases are so annoying, they are ignored. Because you're so annoying, people just ignore everything you say, even when some of the stuff that these guys are saying has some validism to it. Right? It's valid. And it's like, because you guys are always crying wolf, when you have a legitimate gripe, people just ignore you anyways. So then when it's like, well, why do they keep ignoring the fans? Because you guys have like 90 stupid things you argue about, and then you'll have like 10 things that are actually valid. So they ignore you because the 90 stupid things that have nothing to do with anything, like why is Supergirl wearing pants? Like, who gives a shit? I mean, yes, she looks weird, but I didn't think about it more than 2 seconds. Like, oh wow, she's not wearing a skirt anymore. Whatever. Because I don't watch the show, but I saw it on that crossover thing. Like, oh, she doesn't wear the skirt anymore, which is weird because Supergirl always wore a skirt. But I guess that some lesbians found it to be disrespectful. I just kept watching it. It's like, why again? But I didn't care. Oh, I guess that's they decided to go in that direction. So whatever, who cares? It doesn't change the character. But when you sit there and harp on it for 10 days, and the fact that she cut her, that Marvel, what's her name, Captain Marvel, has a lesbian haircut. Is she lesbian? I didn't care. I to be totally honest, I saw Captain Marvel. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I tried. I just didn't understand what the hate for it. I was like, this is not a bad movie. And it sold like 1.5 billion. I'm still confused as to where the hatred for this movie come from. All because some lady said some stupid thing about nothing. She had the audacity to say that the movie wasn't made for white males. Now she's saying that no movie should be made for white males. I'm sorry. I did not go see A Wrinkle in Time. I know that movie wasn't made for me. You may have went to see it. Now, would I have taken my daughter to go see A Wrinkle in Time because she's a young lady, and I don't know if the lead in it, who the lead in it is, but would I would I be surprised my daughter wanted to go see that? No, because she's a young girl. She's a little girl. That's who it was made for. It wasn't made for a 30-year-old white dude with no children. So why are you getting your panties in a bunch? Because she said that. That to me just doesn't make any sense. But like I said, they have a million non-good gripes, and then they'll have one or two ones that are actually valid. And because like I said, it's like feeding the animal. Once they start getting people to agree with them, and they start to realize that it gets them subscribers and likes and comments, they keep doing it. So because they keep doing it, They get pigeonholed in this space where they have to keep finding new content to be mad about because they have to keep putting videos up. But sadly, new things that are offensive don't come out every week, right? So what they do is they'll attach themselves to a particular brand. Charlie's Angels is a big one now. Little Women is a big one. When Captain Marvel came out, these guys making 50 videos about the same thing every time. Oh, well, this just leaked out. It's like they know it's not true, but it gives them a reason to make a video so they can say the same thing over and over again. Disney's going down. They're going to fire her. Yep, we're here 4 or 5 years later. They haven't fired Kathleen Kennedy yet, and I don't think they are going to, because you guys have made it so that ballot criticism is thrown into the same garbage pile as the other freaking erroneous charges you brought forward. Because the girl, she did this. The lady's like, no, I have nothing to do with that. She knows what she has something to do with, and they know what she has something to do with. So you guys throwing everything on her. People, it's like, okay, so let's attack. We know Disney is trying to push for diversity in their hiring and or their movies. So the smartest thing for us to do is to attack the one woman. Maybe if y'all would have left her alone and those movies would have just tanked, then they probably would have just fired her. But because you guys made it all about her and you made it a white male versus white female thing, now they feel more gumption to stay in the same spot and stubborn to just stay in the same, because they're like, we're not gonna let your bigotry force us to fire this woman. It's like, no, we don't want her to fire her because she's a bigot. I mean, because we're bigots. We want you to fire her because she's terrible at making movies. She doesn't know how to dissociate her experience from the normal female and or normal person's experience. She's not good at, like, the Rian Johnson. Anybody who read that Rian Johnson script should have threw that junk in the garbage and set it on fire. But what she said was illuminating a real good look into her thought process. She said what she loved about him was his ability to write really strong female characters. So she cared more about the fact that the characters he wrote were strong females than whether or not the script was good. And I'm not saying that those things are exclusive of one another. Like you can love that it like made female characters and a good storyline, but she led with the thing that made her like him the most was that he wrote strong female characters. That's gonna make anybody give you the side eye when the first thing you said wasn't his stories are captivating. He knows how to pull in the audience. That's not what you said. The first thing you said was he writes, so you expect people to kind of give you the side eye and be like, look, she doesn't seem like she's picking these scripts based on how good they are. She seems like she's picking these scripts off agenda. And that is one of their valid criticism, but it's buried under all this bull, this extra. There's no such thing as white privilege. There's no such thing as racism. There's no such thing as sexism. White women don't have it hard. African Americans don't have it hard. Gays don't have it hard. When you start to, because you're doing the same thing. You're taking one good valid criticism and you're trying to work in all these bullcrap other things that have nothing to do with it. Nobody wants to hear about political correct. No, I don't care if there's politicism in my videos, as long as it goes along with the storyline. The difference is y'all don't care if it goes along with the storyline or not. If it's something y'all don't agree with, then y'all don't want to hear it in the movie. Sometimes a person's political thought process, their view of the world is what shapes the character. And you have to have them having a belief on something. They can't just walk around being a bland, generic character that has no thoughts about anything and or anybody. That's stupid. That would be the most boring, generic, useless character in the history of film. But you all want them to be like you, because you don't care about anybody else. You don't care about what these people are going through. That's how you are. All you care about is your life, and how to make your life better, which is not wrong, because that's what everybody does. But the difference is everybody else isn't arguing for you to take their thought, other people's thought processes and their struggles out of movies. Nobody's not making that movie for idiots like you who just ignore it. They're making it for people who actually listen to it and actually resonates with those people. Who may not have understood. There's a lot of documentaries that come out where you be like, man, I didn't know they were doing that. I didn't know it was that bad. I saw a movie called about college rape. It really opened my eyes on how dangerous and made me actually consider what women have to go through. Like, I could imagine, like, you walk down, like, I'm a man, so I cannot ever. When I walk down the street, I don't care if it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, I never feel unsafe. Because I feel like I can protect myself. I feel like I'm always able to protect myself. So I never have to put myself in the mindset of a woman who is walking down that very same street. who is in her house. So when it's the same thing. Like my wife, even when she comes to locking doors and stuff like that, to me, I'm a male, so my mindset never thinks like that. I'm not gonna be as precautious because I feel I have the means to protect myself. But if you are not a person who's brought up in a situation where you're used to not having the means to protect yourself, not just in your own person, you have to grab something outside of your person to protect yourself because you're just naturally smaller and less powerful. That is dangerous. That is a mindset that you cannot understand. So you may not understand when they saying we need more safe spaces. To you, it's like ain't nobody finna rape no woman. Yeah, but she doesn't know that. So her walking home, it is not wrong for her to want a spot where she knows she gonna walk home and there's a security guard and somebody there. It's not wrong for her to be like, hey, look, I feel like there should be more protection on these campuses because these guys are roofing people and they're and sleeping with them and then saying the girl slept with them willingly. Just like the woman is lying, there are men lying who did rape people and then came back and said, oh, she did it willingly. But you ignore their plight and focus on the guys that are lying. And I think you can do both. You can give honest criticism of female agendas and SJW agendas. But you don't have to do it by completely dismissing the arguments they're making in the movie. And you do not have to always dislike a movie just because they have a liberal or I'm a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm a conservative human being, but I do not have a problem with someone giving a thought process on something, even if I don't agree with it. If I don't agree with it and I think it's a dumb opinion, I don't care. If it doesn't affect the movie, I'll just ignore it. You know how many, as a Christian, you know how many times I have to watch a movie and take out my own principles where they're coming on there saying God doesn't exist and Christians are weak people, weak-minded people who need God to do this. And you know how many times I got to turn on TV and see that as a Christian and I have to just ignore it. I know it's ignorance. I know it's stupidity, but I ignore it because at the same time, I don't care. I don't care what your mindset is. I'm just watching this to be entertained, to pass time. You mean you don't have to agree on everything? But anyways, that's all I want to say. And I know this is a very long video, but this is one of my problems with SJWs and anti-SJWs. I cannot stand that it's like America in general. There is no middle ground anymore. Everything is black and white. And you have to pick a side on everything. You can't be middle of the road on anything. It's like Pastor Troy. This whole situation came out with Pastor Troy a couple days ago, where he said that he was disgusted that he watching TV and all this Applebee's commercial comes on showing these two guys kissing. It's like, well, what the hell is this? That's like I said before. If I'm a Christian and my child is watching that, well, now I gotta answer to him what that is. And I got to tell him that's this and this. And all I'm like, what's the big deal? No, it is a big deal. Because at that age, you don't understand sexuality. You don't understand it well enough. So if I tell you that, and then you turn around and you go to school and realize you have a strong affection, platonic affection to somebody, now you have to start questioning that at a young age when you do not have the capability of getting the full gravity of what that means. That's dangerous. You can force a lot of people in, a lot of these people who believe that they're this way, they get later on in life and realize there's certain things, traumatic things that happened in their past, and to them when they were little kids or small people, young people, mindsets, environments that created this belief, that created these mannerisms, that created these things, and they do not, and they get to a certain age, they're like, I do not feel this way anymore. I find myself being attracted to other things. Why? Because I'm bored with this. So now I wish I would have gone that way, but I've gone too far this way, so no woman would ever want me. So I'm going to have to stay on this side. It's the same type of stuff. I think people jump down Pastor Troy's throat, and I like that he stood on his ground and said, "Look, I'm not going to change that. That's my belief. I have a right to believe what I want to believe, and I do not have to say that a behavior that leads to higher rates of suicides, health, mental, physical, and emotional health, that I want people to be broadcasting that to my children. I'm sorry if you don't like that, and that's the choice you chose to make, but you don't get the right to make a choice about a behavior that science has not proven is anything other than a mindset. And I don't have to agree to that mindset or agree that you should be teaching that mindset to my child with no evidence to back it up. I'm sorry if you're angry about that. I really am. But there is nothing I'm sorry that somebody tricked you into believing that mindset is what you believe. But I do not believe that everybody shares that mindset. There is no, like I said, you can try to make equivalency between gender and race all you want, but that's bullcrap. Race is not a behavior. It is a biological characteristic. Gender is not a behavior. It's a biological characteristic. Homosexuality is not a culture. It is a act. It is a behavior. It is an act. So people sitting up there saying, "Oh, well, what's the difference?" No, it's a huge difference. One thing you can't commit unless you commit that act. Now you can walk around wearing ladies' clothes and letting everybody in the world know that you're different. But I've never once in my life seen someone with a biological function that makes them have to wear women's clothes. Because what happened in day before when people were wearing togas and stuff like that? Did they have an urge to wear male togas? No, all you did was see a woman. You wanted people to see you as a woman, so you started wearing women's clothes. That's not a biological function. That is a behavior that is shaped by the society you grew up in. But I can go all day on that. My point I'm trying to get at is we have got to learn to understand each other better than what we do. This is a world that we have to share. It's not a world that we just that we can dictate and control how other people live in it. If a person is racist, let them be racist. You cannot function in a society as a racist at this point. Let them do what they want to do. If they want to be a sexist, they want to be an idiot, let them do what they want to do. If they want to be a feminist, let them be that. They will not survive in this world as thinking that everything in the world they can blame on feminism. They can let them want to be the black power dude. You're not gonna survive in the world thinking everything in the world has something to do with racism. The world will correct itself. I feel God will correct things. We don't have to. We need to put more faith in. But the problem is there's a lack of faith, and when you have a lack of faith, a lack of faith in God, almost consequently always leads to a gaining of faith in self. And when you have faith in self, you have to control the world around you, and you don't have the power to. So you start to do anything you can to control this world, and when you do that, you end up running into other people doing the same thing, and you're never going to be happy, and the world is never going to be harmonious. It's gonna always be conflict. There's always going to be problems because we only have one world. It can't be made for everybody. It can't be made perfectly for everybody. When you all are playing a video game, you all can't play as long as you want to. You're gonna have to learn to. Some people who may not want to play up for 15 minutes, and some people who may want to play up for 8 hours. I can't allow you to play it for 8 hours because you think that I don't really like it as much as you do. We have to share it, and the world has to be shared, and then we do a terrible job of sharing it. Anyways, I just wanted to say that because I was blown away and I was very perturbed by these anti-SJW celebrating these women who are going to be, these people and women who are going to be out of jobs and stuff like that. Why? Because the lead in the show is a female. You're celebrating it like you conquered something. Like, why do you feel a sense of pride at somebody else failing? But anyways, please comment if you have not. Comment. Let me know what you think. Where I may be short or whatever. Let me know. Subscribe and thumbs it up if you like what I have to say. But anyways, all right, y'all. Peace.